Sleeping Beauty. I'm Jason Horton.
I'm Rebecca Lieb.
And this is Ghost Town.
On October 29, 1861, Carolina Olsen was born on the island of Okno in southern Sweden. She lived with her mother, fisherman father, and 5 brothers. It was a simple existence next to the calming waters of the Kalmar Strait in the Baltic Sea. And yet, it could have stayed that way, if not for an event that would make young Carolina a bizarre myth, medical oddity, and local legend. Today on Ghost Town, the strange story of Carolina Olsen, also known as the Sleeper of Okno. Carolina, for most of her life, led a sheltered existence, homeschooled until she was 14. But on February 22, 1876, Carolina was getting acclimated to her new school and arrives home from her walk back from school complaining of a toothache. Her mother insisted that the toothache was due to witchcraft. Yes, we're going straight to witchcraft, and tells her daughter to go to bed. Carolina goes to bed and falls asleep for 32 years. Yes, you heard me correctly. When Carolina's mother tried to wake her up the next morning, she was unresponsive, as if in some kind of mysterious comatose state. The family couldn't afford a doctor at this time, so they relied on the advice of friends and a local midwife about their hibernating daughter. These people tell Carolina's mother to force-feed her milk and sugar every day to try to wake her up and nourish her. As word gets around Okno, doctors and medical professionals actually do visit the family to try to understand exactly what's happening, but nobody succeeds in waking Carolina up. The common belief at the time was that she suffered from some kind of hysteria or unknown psychosis. In 1892, yes, 16 years later, Carolina is admitted to Oskarshamn Hospital, where she's treated with electroconvulsive therapy, but that does not seem to help. After a month-long stay in the hospital, nothing is working, and the hospital's official diagnosis is paralytica. Though Carolina is not seen awake or conscious by anyone during the years of being allegedly asleep, in 1905 her mother passes away and her condition kind of changes. Well, slightly. Witness accounts from the family report that she would cry hysterically but remain asleep. Her care is first taken over by her father, but due to his old age, he hires a maid to care for Caroline around the clock. When one of her brothers dies in 1907, she has another episode of loud, yet still sleep-filled crying. On a few occasions, Carolina was discovered crawling around on the floor, after which she was led back to bed again. On none of these occasions, I want to make this distinction, did she ever seem awake, nor did she, quote, wake up afterwards. Though on one occasion, Carolina was allegedly heard by her father loudly shouting out a prayer before again, kind of resting back into her sleep mode. The maid reported candies going missing and furniture and clothes moving around, but Carolina herself never touched any food that was put by her bed. On April 3rd, 1908, Carolina's maid entered her room and found her on the floor, crawling around and crying hysterically. Carolina looked at the maid and asked for her mother. When her brother enters the room, she does not recognize him. Malnourished, sensitive to light, and mostly nonverbal, Carolina is confused and unhealthy, but she seems to finally be awake. At this point, Carolina is now 46 years old. 32 years and 42 days have passed since she went to quote, unquote, sleep. It's kind of a miracle. Carolina can still read and write, but she knows absolutely nothing beyond that. She can't remember the day she fell asleep, she can't point out Stockholm on a map, and she definitely doesn't remember anything from the time of being asleep. Additionally, outsiders describe Carolina as younger looking than she is, more like someone in her 30s than a 46-year-old, and she lives the rest of her life quietly at her childhood home in Okno, happy, some might say, in good shape, and helping out around the house. On April 5th, 1950, she dies of a brain aneurysm at 88 years of age. So what happened to Carolina Olsen? According to Swedish psychiatric doctor Harold Frodstrom, who studied Olsen for a while in 1910, the sleep period was likely triggered by a toothache, which then might have become encephalitis lethargica, putting her to sleep. That's a more grounded medical answer, but a lot of people don't believe that. After all, she was asleep for 32 years. That's a pretty hefty dose of encephalitis from a mild-seeming toothache. Some people believe it was some kind of conspiracy between Olsen's mother and herself, a Munchausen by proxy situation. Of course, it could have also been a long act of resistance by Carolina Olsen herself against her overbearing mother and maybe family. Maybe it was some kind of joke or prank or act of defiance that just went too far. Very far, extremely far, decades long, and it became this kind of comfort to her in some way. Whatever really happened to Carolina, of course, questions remain. Why didn't her nails or hair ever seem to grow, as many people note in the research that I'm looking at? How could she survive on only 2 glasses of milk? Did she use the bathroom? How was she comfortable for that long? Did she shower? Of course, lots of questions, lots of variables that are answered if we do believe that this is a hoax or something that she would come out of and able to maintain herself. Also, she likely looked younger because she was not leaving her bedroom, to be exposed to the sun. Though, again, we'll never know what happened to the sleeper of Okno, but I think we can all agree that 32 years of hibernation is a commitment worth decades of curious and bizarre speculation.